Yeah, the thing I find most tricky is when people don't recognize you particularly, but half recognize you.
A researched and fact-checked narration script. The boy who stuttered so badly that classmates called him an alien grew up to become one of the most beloved comedians on Earth. But the transformation came at a cost. Rowan Atkinson discovered, decades ago, that his stutter vanished the moment he stepped into a character, and never fully returned when he stepped out of one. Every Mr. Bean episode, he has said, left him drained. He has called the role exhausting, and admitted he often looked forward to filming ending. Now, past 70, the silent comedian has spent the last few years finally putting his own story into words. Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born on January 6, 1955 in Consett, a small town in County Durham, England, the youngest of 4 brothers. His eldest brother, Paul, died as an infant, leaving Rowan to grow up alongside his surviving brothers, Rupert and Rodney. Rodney Atkinson went on to become a Eurosceptic economist and, in 2000, narrowly lost a bid for the leadership of the UK Independence Party. The family lived on a farm in a quiet, disciplined household, an unlikely training ground for a future king of physical comedy. Around age 5, Atkinson developed a pronounced stutter that made school difficult. He was sent to the Durham Chorister School, where, according to his 1999 biography by Bruce Dessau, a staff member, Canon John Grove, remembered him as shy, with a stammer and a distinctive rubbery face. Classmates were less kind. Some called him an alien because of his appearance and the way he spoke. A 2007 article in The Independent later confirmed that Atkinson had been bullied at the school over both his stutter and his looks. One of his schoolmates at Durham Chorister was a boy 2 years his junior named Tony Blair, the future Prime Minister. School photographs from the era show the two of them, worlds apart even then. Blair remembered as an outgoing model pupil, Atkinson as the withdrawn, odd one out. And then something strange happened. Whenever young Atkinson performed, reciting a poem, taking a role in a school play, the stammer disappeared entirely. A faculty member at St. Bees School, where Atkinson later studied, put it simply, even an incipient stammer vanished the moment he stepped on stage. That contradiction, painfully self-conscious off stage, effortlessly fluent on it, would define the rest of his life. Despite the bullying, Atkinson excelled academically, earning top marks in his science A-levels and securing a place at Newcastle University in 1973, where at 18 he began a degree in electrical and electronic engineering. He graduated in 1975 and, following in his father's footsteps, went on to the Queen's College, Oxford, the same college his father had attended in 1935 for a master's degree focused on self-tuning control systems. He briefly began doctoral research, but never finished it. His A-level physics teacher, Chris Robson, later said that in class Atkinson was entirely unremarkable, but the moment he walked on stage, he became a different person. While at Oxford in 1975, Atkinson joined the university's drama scene and a review group. It was there that he met a young writer named Richard Curtis, a meeting that would shape both of their careers for the next 4 decades. Curtis later recalled first seeing Atkinson perform at a rehearsal in early 1976, an unassuming figure who, once on stage, delivered a mime-driving sketch Curtis considered pure comic invention. That same year, in August 1976, Atkinson performed with the Oxford Revue at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, his first outing in front of a genuinely national audience. The show succeeded, and Atkinson's path away from engineering became clear. Still, the engineering never entirely left him. His MSc thesis on self-tuning control was published in 1978, and his technical education stayed with him for life. Decades later, he became known as an early adopter of electric and hybrid vehicles, buying his first hybrid in the mid-2000s and his first fully electric car several years after that. a history that would later put him at the center of an unlikely controversy. More on that shortly. In 1979, Atkinson created a BBC Radio 3 sketch show called The Atkinson People, voicing a set of invented characters, with writing help from Richard Curtis and production by Griff Rhys-Jones. It aired in a slot that wasn't built for comedy and found few listeners, but it demonstrated his range to those paying attention. The years immediately after were hard. Between 1978 and 1979, the BBC rejected his pitches repeatedly. His stutter reportedly resurfaced under the stress of auditions and interviews. At his lowest point, by his own account, he considered returning to engineering. What kept him going was the same discovery he'd made as a boy. When he became a character, the stammer disappeared. He didn't need to speak perfectly as himself. The characters could do the talking. In 1979, at 24, Atkinson returned to the Edinburgh Fringe with a largely wordless show in the tradition of silent film comedians like Buster Keaton. Some audience members walked out. Others recognized something rare in his physical control. That same period, he tested television again with a pilot called Canned Laughter, 1979, in which he played multiple characters, including an early prototype of what would become Mr. Bean. It wasn't picked up as a series, but the groundwork was laid. In 1979, the BBC finally gave Atkinson a chance on a new sketch show, not the 9 o'clock news. Its original April air date was pushed back around that year's general election, and when the first episode finally aired on October 16, 1979, it landed poorly, under 1 million viewers and reviews so hostile that co-star Mel Smith later called it one of the worst half hours of television he'd ever seen. The BBC controller, however, liked what he saw and commissioned another series, a decision that
would turn the show into one of the most influential British comedies of its era. Atkinson worked alongside Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, and Griff Rhys-Jones, all of whom became stars in their own right. Behind the scenes, things were less smooth. After the first series, original cast member Chris Langham was dropped from the show over Atkinson's own objections and replaced by Rhys-Jones. The fallout reportedly left Langham estranged from the group for years. Tightening BBC budgets also forced cutbacks, a situation the show itself mocked in an episode explicitly about its own shrinking budget. The show's second series in 1980 produced its most famous sketch, Gerald the Gorilla, in which Mel Smith played a professor claiming to have trained a gorilla, only for Gerald, played by Atkinson in costume, to reveal unexpected intelligence and irritation at being described as having been captured in the wild. The sketch became a genuine cultural touchstone. Primatologists began jokingly using the invented collective noun for baboons that the sketch popularized. The episode helped the show earn a Silver Rose at the 1982 Montreux Festival and a BAFTA for Best Light Entertainment Program. The show also had an unlikely hit single, I Like Trucking, released in 1981 as part of the album Hedgehog Sandwich, on which the cast sang together, with Atkinson, who genuinely held a heavy goods driving license at the time, driving the truck in the sketch himself. By March 1982, though, exhaustion had caught up with the cast. Rather than continue writing a hit show, they walked away at its peak. Pamela Stephenson moved to Hollywood. Smith and Rhys-Jones created their own series, Alas Smith and Jones, and Atkinson moved straight into a new project with Richard Curtis. On June 15, 1983, The Black Adder launched, a co-creation with Curtis imagining an alternate history in which Richard III won the Battle of Bosworth Field. Atkinson played Prince Edmund, scheming son of a fictional king, Richard IV. The first series was shot on elaborate sets, partly funded by Australia's 7 Network, and its cost nearly got the show cancelled after one run. The rain-hit location shoots at Alnwick Castle, sprawling casts, and period costumes blew the budget, and reviews were mixed. An international Emmy win gave the BBC enough confidence for a second series, but only if the format changed radically. Blackadder 2, 1986, scrapped the castles and the crowds. Ben Elton joined as co-writer, sharpening the pace, and the show became a character piece. Miranda Richardson's shrieking Queenie, Tom Baker's memorable guest turn as Redbeard Rum, and, crucially, the transformation of Baldric from a competent aide into the beloved fool played by Tony Robinson. Some critics were unconvinced at first, but the show's reputation grew steadily better with time. The final series, Blackadder Goes Forth, 1989, moved the action to the trenches of the First World War, with Hugh Laurie as Lieutenant George alongside Atkinson's Captain Blackadder and Robinson's Private Baldric. It balanced comedy with real pathos about the war's futility, and its closing scene, the cast walking into no man's land, filmed in slow motion, remains one of British television's most cited emotional endings. The series won Best Comedy Series at the 1990 BAFTAs, with Atkinson winning Best Light Entertainment Performance. In 2000, it was ranked 16th on the British Film Institute's list of the 100 greatest British television programs. And in a 2004 BBC poll for Britain's best sitcom, it placed second. Atkinson has said the Blackadder years, particularly working with Laurie and Stephen Fry, were among the least stressful of his career, because for once, the pressure was shared rather than resting entirely on him. Mr. Bean premiered on ITV on January 1, 1990, watched by an estimated 13.45 million viewers. Atkinson had developed the character years earlier at Oxford, and its almost total lack of dialogue made it travel further than any of his other work. The series was eventually distributed in more than 200 territories. But success came with a private cost that Atkinson has been candid about in interviews over the years. He has said he didn't especially enjoy playing the character, that filming was stressful and left him very drained, and that because Bean communicates almost entirely through face and body, the physical and emotional toll of performing him was heavier than it looked on screen. The character crossed into film with Bean 1997, a substantial commercial success that broke UK opening weekend box office records at the time and performed strongly across international markets, including Australia and Germany. A second film, Mr. Bean's Holiday, followed in 2007. Atkinson later said even a bicycle stunt for that film left him completely exhausted, and admitted he had never been an especially athletic performer. Looking for a way to keep the character alive without the physical demands, Atkinson turned to animation. Mr. Bean, the animated series, ran from 2002 to 2004 for its first run, with later series continuing well beyond, letting him voice the character without the same physical strain. It found a young audience and kept the brand alive on television long after the live-action series ended. Atkinson brought Mr. Bean back for one live performance during the London 2012 Olympics closing ceremony, miming along to Chariots of Fire, a moment watched by millions in the UK and widely shared online, but one that, by his own account, left him drained for weeks afterward. Many now regard it as his last major appearance as Mr. Bean in full physical form. The character's afterlife online has been extraordinary. By 2025, the official Mr. Bean YouTube channel had passed 35 million subscribers and roughly 12 billion total views, according to Banijay, the company that now holds the rights, as the brand marked 35 years on air. Comedians including Sacha Baron Cohen have cited Atkinson's largely wordless physical style as an influence, and some commentators have compared Atkinson's legacy to that of Charlie. Atkinson's public statements on retiring the character have shifted over the years. In 2012, he told The Telegraph he wanted to retire Mr. Bean, saying there was something a little sad about a man in his 50s still playing childlike physical comedy. By 2016, he had softened that stance, saying he'd never fully retire the character. By 2018, on The Graham Norton Show, he said a return was unlikely. But, in his words, one should never say never. For years, fans speculated online that Mr. Bean was secretly an alien, pointing to his total lack of a first name, his passport listing him simply as Mr., and the character's frequent skyward glances. That theory got an unusual, semi-official nod in the animated series' 2004 episode Double Trouble, the finale of its third season. In it, Bean encounters a doppelganger who turns out to be one of many identical clones aboard a UFO, the same craft, it's implied, that dropped him on Earth years earlier. When his human girlfriend Ermagab looks upset at the thought of him leaving, Bean chooses to stay on Earth, promising his own kind he'll return one day. Entertainment outlets, including Screen Rant, have since described the episode as effectively confirming the long-running fan theory within the show's own continuity. Even if, strictly speaking, it's a wink from the animated spin-off rather than a statement from Atkinson himself about the character's true nature. It's a playful bit of in-universe lore, not a documented fact about the world. But it is real, broadcast content, not an invented rumor. Atkinson's other roles have often surprised people who knew him only as Mr. Bean. In 4 Weddings and a Funeral 1994, he played a famously nervous vicar who fumbles his lines during a wedding ceremony. A small role in a film made on a modest budget that became a major international hit and helped shape the arc of his career toward more mainstream film work. In 2003, he headlined the spy spoof Johnny English, drawing on his old Barclaycard advertising work, and the film performed strongly worldwide. 2 sequels followed, Johnny English Reborn, 2011, and Johnny English Strikes Again, 2018, the latter drawing on his real engineering background to weave in cybersecurity themes. Not every venture succeeded. 2005's Keeping Mum, in which he played a troubled pastor, was poorly received, and Atkinson reportedly stepped back from film work for a couple of years afterward. He also voiced Zazu in Disney's The Lion King, 1994, a role he initially resisted, having never enjoyed voice work, but one that became one of the most commercially successful animated films of all time. He did not return for the 2019 photorealistic remake. In 2022, at 67, Atkinson returned to physical comedy for the Netflix series Man vs. Bee, playing a house sitter waging war against a single insect. He has said the physical demands of that kind of comedy get harder with age, and that he was never a naturally athletic performer. Atkinson met Sunetra Sastry, a BBC makeup artist, on the set of Blackadder in the mid-1980s. He reportedly asked to switch makeup artists in order to spend time with her, a story his co-star Stephen Fry later confirmed in his own memoir, adding that he himself had been drawn to her before Atkinson made his move. Atkinson and Sastry married on February 5, 1990 at the Russian Tea Room in New York City, with Fry serving as best man. They had 2 children, Benjamin, born 1993, and Lily, born 1995. The couple separated in 2014 after 24 years of marriage, and a decree nisi was granted in November 2015 in a hearing lasting under a minute, with the divorce recorded on grounds of unreasonable behavior. Around the same time, Atkinson began a relationship with actress Louise Ford, whom he had met while performing together in the play Quartermain's Terms. The couple had a daughter, Isla, in December 2017, when Atkinson was 62. The age gap between Atkinson and Ford, around 27 years, drew considerable tabloid attention at the time, which Atkinson has largely declined to discuss publicly. In March 2001, while on a family holiday in Kenya, Atkinson, then 46 and with no flying experience, was aboard a chartered light aircraft when the pilot lost consciousness mid-flight at around 16,000 feet. According to reporting at the time by the Globe and Mail and the Spectator, Atkinson took the controls and kept the aircraft steady until the pilot came to and was able to land safely at Nairobi's Wilson Airport. In October 2012, Atkinson gave a widely circulated speech at a parliamentary reception in support of the Reform Section 5 campaign, arguing against provisions in the Public Order Act that criminalized insulting speech and calling for a legal right to offend as part of open debate. Footage of the speech was viewed more than 140,000 times within days. The campaign succeeded. The word insulting was removed from the relevant sections of the Act by the Crime and Courts Act 2013, effective February 2014. Some LGBTQ+ and civil rights advocates at the time argued the change risked protecting genuinely harmful speech. The law change went ahead regardless. Atkinson's long-standing interest in electric vehicles, dating back to his engineering training, took an unexpected turn in June 2023, when he wrote an opinion piece for The Guardian saying he felt duped by the EV industry, citing research suggesting EV production generates significantly higher emissions than petrol car production. The article was strongly disputed by climate researchers, including Carbon Brief's Simon Evans, who published a rebuttal the following week arguing Atkinson had misjudged the overall life cycle emissions picture. The piece continued to generate debate well into 2024, when the environmental group Green Alliance told a House of Lords committee that Atkinson's article was one of the most damaging pieces of EV misinformation in circulation, a claim reported widely in the UK press.